Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3 Minute Horror Show. Today I'll be interviewing director, writer, and producer Troy Escamilla. Troy has made some very cool movies, and he hosts a horror-themed podcast that's been running for quite some time. Troy and I have known each other online for a little while now, but we haven't had a chance to do this until now, so I'm glad that we were finally able to. Troy, before we get started, how would you like to give the audience a little background on yourself?
Oh, I think you did a marvelous job. I mean, you described, yeah, I'm a director, writer, producer, podcast host. I have made four feature films in the last 10 years. Actually, this year is the 10th anniversary of completing my first film, Party Night. And within those 10 years, I've made three more films, Mrs. Claus, Teacher Shortage, and one that is currently starting to play the festival circuit, Hollow Lake.
Mhm.
And yes, and as you mentioned, I also host a podcast that we are in our fifth year, creeping up on episode 200, which is crazy to think about. It's Dark Night of the Podcast, which I host with another filmmaker that I know you know very well, and I know very well, near and dear to my heart, Roger Connors. So yeah, and I've been a lifelong horror fan. My whole life has been consumed by horror. I started a horror blog way back in like the mid 2000s where I would do reviews, horror reviews. You might still be able to find it. It was frightmeter.com, which and then I started these Fright Meter awards, which were awards exclusively for the horror genre. One of the very first of its kind. And we actually had trophies. I had a whole committee. We gave awards to people like Lynn Shay and Lucky McKee and the Suska sisters, and we have pictures of them holding their trophy, and that just led to a lot of really cool interviews that I got to do for my Fright Meter site and things like that. So my life has been very much in uh, the what's the word I'm looking for the
Or Sphere?
the sphere, or that's not trenches,
Okay.
trenches of horror. There you
Okay.
go. That's the word. That's the word.
That's very cool. No, Fright Meter is not still accessible. I checked earlier today, and it takes you to a very interesting site that's hosted in India, I believe. But
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
that's probably, yeah, you know what? Life gets busy. I
yeah.
forgot to renew the domain name, and the people from India snatch those up and then they try to resell them to you for thousands of dollars. It
Mm.
sucks. I probably lost all of my wonderful interviews and reviews, but
What
I
can you
st
do?
s somehow still accessible, I'm sure, but
Yeah, there's somebody. It's probably being re-uploaded to YouTube or something like that somewhere.
way back machine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Now, Troy, have you always been a creative person?
Yes, I would say so. I think anybody that knows me has known me for, a majority of my life would say that. My creativity though, I always express through writing. And, I just some of my earlier memories were like I got assigned we got assigned in like third grade. It was the teacher assigned us she had a sentence. It was something like it was for Halloween. It was like the starter, it was a starter sentence, something like, oh, the three kids saw the scary house and decided to go in. And you were just supposed to finish the story. Like most kids did like a paragraph, right? I ended up turning in, and keep in mind, I was in third grade. I ended up turning in an 11-page story that that I made from this sentence. And she was just, in awe because not that I did that much, but also that it was coherent for a third grader. And that led to her like suggesting me to go to like this district or the statewide, it wasn't even a district, it was a statewide writing workshop that only like one kid per district in the state of Iowa got to go to. I was selected. So it's always, and then I just it kind of led to me writing like sh stories. When I was in middle school, I wrote a couple of, I'm going to say novels, but a notebook. And then I got really interested in the screenwriting format. And started to explore that. And I wrote my first screenplay probably when I was 18. And and I still have it. I still have it.
Oh,
It's in a little
wow.
container over here. What people would be flabbergasted to know, it's not a horror. It's not a horror screenplay at all. It's actually a very dark drama.
Hmm.
So yeah. And then that led me to write Party Night, my first script, and um, sat on that for a while before jumping in to decide to get it done. But so yes, to answer your question, yes, but writing was always more of my outlet.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
what sort of things did you draw inspiration from as a child?
Okay, so I would say, one of the more influential experiences of my life was my parents taking me for my brother's birthday to see Poltergeist in theaters. And I was young. I mean, I was really young. I
Yeah.
mean, that came out in 82, so I was maybe like four. Keep in mind, though, folks, before you come from my parents, Poltergeist was PG. I don't know
It
how.
was it was the craziest PG-13 movie ever made.
It's not even PG-13, it's PG, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it scared the ever-loving shit out of me as a little
Yeah.
4-year-old or whatever sitting there. But I loved it. When I left the theater, like, yeah, I was scared watching it. Like that guy ripping his face off will always be sealed into my memory.
Yeah.
The clown, of
The
course.
clown too.
But I was so terrified in the theater. But when I left, I was just full of adrenaline, and I wanted more. And luckily, my parents were both horror fans. Like my mom and dad talk about one of their first dates being going to the drive-in to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
Yeah, so they never shied away from letting me or my brother watch these films. And I grew up in the 80s, 90s when kind of the golden age of slashers, but also the age of video, mom and pop video stores,
Hmm.
where you could go in on the weekends and, my mom would let me and my brother pick out one movie. And of course, we would just rush to the horror section and you'd have all of these just eye-catching cover art staring back at you. And you made your decision just solely based on these cover arts and some of the more memorable ones, like The Mutilator, Slaughter High, uh, all these memorable cover arts that really hooked me, and it really kind of generated my love for slashers. And that is if you look at my filmography, it's basically strictly slashers, playing loving homage to a lot of my favorites, each one of them in different ways.
Our childhoods sound very similar, though thousands of miles away, like me in the
Yeah.
Great White North up here. But I grew up, I think I'm just a year older than you are. And I saw Poltergeist at a very young age, too young. We did the same thing. My mother was very lenient when it came to whatever it is we rented because she loved watching Friday the 13th and all that stuff. So she'd go and let us rent whatever we wanted and come back and Blood Beach and Slaughter High, just like you said. All of these movies that you'd rent them based on the covers. That's so crazy. What kind of a kid were you growing up?
Ooh, that's a great. Nobody's really ever asked me that. I believe I was super shy. Like I was very shy as a kid. Elementary school, I was, fine. But when I hit middle school, I think, that's that awkward age and, a lot of personal, going through puberty and realizing, oh shit, I might not be like everybody else. And
Yeah.
that makes you even more self-conscious. So I would say during junior high and probably up through my junior year, I was pretty shy. Honestly, not a lot of friends. Most of my friends were females. Hint, hint. And then um, but by the time I hit my senior year, something snapped in me, and I was like, you know what? I need to get out of this. And I did a lot of shit that I just never thought I would do. I ran for student council. I ran for science club vice pre. I did all this stuff, and I really came out of my shell. And I made a lot of really cool friends my senior year, and it was just I always kick myself in the face because like I could have really had a lot, I think a lot of stronger friendships formed earlier. But yeah, I just, I was very introverted because I was, internal struggle. I know it sounds really cliche, but that's what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get too close to any boys as friends. So I gravitated towards girls, which of course then, the boys, the jock boys and the, recognize, oh, that kid hangs out with only girls, and all that teasing and shit that comes with that.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so yeah, I wasn't the most outgoing, kid at all. So until I really reached my senior year, I think, and I just something snapped in me.
You mentioned that you wrote a screenplay or a script when you were 18. What, where was your life headed when you decided that you wanted to pull the trigger and make your first fe and write your first feature script?
Oh, it was just something I did. I never expected to make that film. It was just something
Hmm.
I had a story in my head I wanted to tell. I thought it was, I wanted to practice the script writing format and get it down. And again, like I said, my first script is just still sitting
Yeah.
in a bin over there. Party Night was just kind of a different beast, and I didn't make that film. I mean, well into my mid 30s is when I made Party Night. So it's not like I started making films at an early age. I talk to a lot of filmmakers, or you meet a lot of filmmakers who are like, "Oh, I was 6 years old filming films in my backyard." I was like, I never did that sort of thing. Again, my outlet was writing. The actual, I've talked about this before, but the actual job of directing Party Night kind of just fell in my lap. I wasn't supposed to direct that film by any means, and it just fell into my lap, and it happened, and I'm glad it happened. And
So how did you do it? Did you read books or did you watch YouTube videos or something? How did you
well,
teach yourself how to become a director?
Well, here's the thing is like if
Yeah.
you because long story short, when we decided to make Party Night, Party Night was crowdfunded. I would never have made Party Night without the crowdfunding platforms, and thank God, because of my Fright Meter blog and stuff like that,
Right.
I had a lot of built-in horror connections already, so we were able to meet our goal, which was amazing back, it was, $10,000 back in 2016. Um, well, the person that really encouraged me, and I just want to give him props. I haven't talked to him for years. I don't even know if he's on social media anymore. But the person that really encouraged me to move forward with it was Kevin Summerlin, or Kevin Summerfield, sorry,
Hmm.
who directed "Don't Go to the Reunion," "Dismembering Christmas," and Irrational Fear. And he kind of very much like me, had these scripts. He wanted to get them made. He used the crowdfunding platform, found people to assist him. And it just inspired me to do the same thing. So, like, I had the script, thought the script was good, had a lot of people read the script, figured out this is something we could probably do with a pretty minuscule budget because it's a small cast. Party Night has like six cast members, mainly one location. There's a school and then a house. That's it. And the special effects. That's what we had to work with. So I had a producer partner, my friend Renee, who her daughter was talking to this guy who lived out in Maryland, who apparently was a director or like getting into filmmaking. He did all of his own little short films and stuff like that. I saw some of them. He had a video, a little clip, a little short thing that went viral and had like over 2 million views on YouTube. So we're like, okay, I watched this stuff. I was like, okay, he can probably, talking to him, he can probably get the 80s style, what I'm going for, because Party Night's very much like an 80s throwback slasher. I
Hmm.
wanted the vibe of like The Mutilate or something like that. We brought him on, and the very first day, he just did not work out. Like it was clear that this wasn't going to work.
Hmm.
And the actors were frustrated. I was frustrated. My director of photography was frustrated. So we made everyone was like, he has to go, or we're not gonna do this. So we had to make the tough decision to let him go, fire him from the project. And keep in mind how like just difficult this was for me to do. Like this was my
Yeah.
first film. I flew him out. I'd been talking to him for months leading up to this, and then it's day two. I'm like I have to let you go. This is just doesn't work, and you're not getting what we're trying to do. You don't you're just. So I was freaking out. I'm
Hmm.
like, who's gonna direct it? Like who is going to direct this? And my DP, Derek Huey at the time, and one of my actors were like, Troy, like, you wrote this story, right? You wrote this script. And I said, yeah, yeah. They're like, then you know what you want. You have the vision in your mind of how you want things to play out. All you do is you communicate with that with us. Tell us when you were writing this line how you envisioned it being said. Tell us, when this particular death scene is happening, how are you picturing it? What do you need your actors to do to pull this off in your mind? And it clicked with me. And my DP was super patient with me because, I wasn't privy to like things like, I knew basic camera angles, but lenses and things like that, I just
Hmm.
wasn't privy to. And he really took the time to teach me. This is if you want to do this is the lens you use. If you want to do this is the lens you use. If you want this particular, vibe from the shot, you're going to do a low angle, all that stuff. So that's how it worked. And Party Night was really just a patience. People were patient with me. Um, but in the end, I think that the film turned out 100 times better than it would have been if I wouldn't have stepped in. And everyone is still, very much proud of the film and what we accomplished. And I learned so much, and I was just so pumped that I was like, I freaking got to do this again. And coincidentally enough, I had
Mhm.
started working on the Mrs. Claus. Well, at that time it was called Stirring. I'd
Yeah,
started working on the Stirring script. I was about 20 pages in, and I let my cast of Party Night read it, and they freaking loved it. They loved the opening, and they were
yeah,
like, "Oh, we got to do this. We got to do this." And that is why, if you watch Mrs. Claus, the three actors from Party Night are all came back for Mrs. Claus. The
oh,
lead
okay.
actress, I wanted her back too because the lead actress was phenomenal on Party Night, but she couldn't do it. She had moved to LA at the time and started doing voice work for like video games and stuff. So
Oh,
she
cool.
wasn't, yeah, she wasn't available. So that's how it happened. Long story, but that's, and then
No, that's good.
I stepped on this the set of Stirring with just way much more confidence. People were even commenting, "Oh, Troy, you definitely could tell you've done this before. You got this. You got it down." And, I was intimidated because on Stirring Mrs. Claus, I had Brink Stevens.
Yeah,
Who try. I mean, my mind was like, me direct Brink Stevens, me tell her what to do. Okay. I had Aline Udy from My Bloody
yep,
Valentine. Same thing. She's a phenomenal actress. She was on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, The Dead
yep.
Zone. I'm like, I'm gonna tell her how to act. Okay. But I did, and they nailed it, and they were very receptive. And by teacher shortage, I felt like, you know what? I'm a freaking pro.
You got
I
this.
wasn't, but you know what I mean.
No, it's good. I like that answer because I was going to segue into talking about Party Night and your next movies, and so we've kind of done that. That's awesome. Party Night, though, is your only movie that I haven't seen. I've seen all the others. I'm going to see Party Night, but your next movie, Mrs. Claus, aka Stirring, I definitely have seen that one. I created a video about it, folks. I'll put a link to it in the end, along with Troy's links
Cool.
in the description of the video, so that you can check that out. It's an enhanced review with bits of an interview that I did with Mel Heflin, who is in the beginning part of the movie, and
Mhm.
she loves the movie and she tells everybody about the movie, and yeah, really fun, lots of fun. I loved Mrs. Claus. I have it on good authority that your favorite movie is Black Christmas of all
Yeah.
time,
Yes,
and
it
I
is.
could definitely see the influence of Black Christmas in Mrs. Claus. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Mrs. Claus was basically my homage or my love letter to both Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night, something
Yeah.
along those lines. Um, yeah, Christmas theme horror, one of my favorite subgenres, and so I knew I had this. I always knew after if we were gonna if Party and I actually got made, like if we actually were successful at getting it made, I knew that I wanted to do a Christmas themed horror film because not only do I love them. I think
Mhm.
they're a lot of fun, and I think one of the things that people that makes Mrs. Claus maybe stand out a little bit more from the pack of the dozens of Christmas slashers that seem to come out every year. There still seems to be a affinity for Mrs. Claus. Like every year, it's really cool to see people post about Mrs. Claus and that they're
Mhm.
watching it and new people discovering it and it popping up on new lists of Christmas horror you got to watch. That is one of the benefits of having a Christmas horror film because people are going to find it each year if it's enjoyable, right? Because there
Yeah.
are a lot of Christmas slashers that have come and gone and you never, yeah. I think one of the things that made Mrs. Claus a lot of fun was the fact that it was Mrs. Claus as the killer that hadn't really been seen before. Most of the killers in Christmas themed slashers are dressed as Santa. So I had a lot of fun with the Mrs. Claus concept. But yes, it was a lot of fun. A great cast, big cast, like four times the size of Party Night. So juggling that was a challenge. I was like, what did I get myself into with this? Way more death scenes. The death scenes were way more elaborate. I wanted them all Christmas themed. Mel's death, especially in the beginning of the film, which I will tell you, Mel's death scene, in Mel's death scene and Mrs. Claus, and the kind of the wide shot of it
Yeah.
is still my favorite shot in any of my films. And she was a lot of fun to work with, and I brought her back for Teacher Shortage. But yeah, it was just kind of a loving homage to a couple of Christmas slashers that I really loved, and I wanted to see how well I could pull off a twist ending as well.
Yeah, it
Because
was a good twist.
one of the biggest complaints that I got from Party Night is that you don't know, like you see the killer, but you never find out who he is.
Hmm.
There's no motivation given. He's just there killing. You never know why. Some people didn't like that. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do another one, let me try to pull a Scream, a Scream type
Yeah,
ending and really see if I can trick people and see if I can like make people like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. So that's what I did. I hope it was successful, but
I think it was. I think it was successful. Everybody who I've recommended it to really liked it too. So you could say that kind of like Party Night was an homage to Black Christmas as well, right? Because you never find out who that guy was or why he did it or anything.
well,
Yeah.
there's a couple you'll see there's a couple of specific shots in Party Night that are directly inspired copies, but from Black Christmas,
Yeah.
including my favorite shot in Black Christmas, the eye between the door.
Yeah.
We redo that in Party Night, and that's one of my favorite shots in any film of all time. I have a tattoo of it on my leg.
Oh, do you?
So yeah. So we do that shot in Party Night. So, but I would say yes. I would say yeah, maybe, perhaps. But again, I was thinking like Party Night. The more influence from Party Night came from films like The Mutilator. And I think if you're familiar with The Mutilator and you watch
Yeah.
Party Night and pick up kind of on the story, you'll say, oh, okay, I can see how they connect a little bit.
Okay. That brings us to teacher shortage. And that's the
Mm.
first time that you worked with Roger in your cast.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that how you guys met?
No, me and Roger were like again social media. He's a scream queer that before me and him even actually ever said a peep to each other. I think it was just like, oh, here's another gay guy that likes horror. I'm gonna follow him or befriend him. And he would I would post stuff. He would like my post about Party Night. At that time, he was still working on Rebirth. And I would like his stuff, and then we just started kind of chatting. And with again, don't get confused because my original title was Stirring.
Of
The
Mrs.
dis
Claus. Yeah.
Yes, the distributor changed it to Mrs. Claus. Okay,
Right.
so I still sometimes refer to it as Stirring, especially talking about it in the early days because when it played at festivals, it played as Stirring. But anyways, Stirring played at a festival in Cleveland. Yes, see, there you go. And Roger found out, he's like, "Oh, I live in Cleveland. We should meet up." And so we met up like on a Saturday night after the film played. It just happened to be Pride weekend, so he took me to Cleveland Pride, and we just hit it off really, really well. And I just like, you know what, we need to work together sometime. And I would definitely would love to have you in one of my films. So when I started the script to teacher shortage, knowing Roger, having known him and knowing that he was a great actor because I'd seen some of his work, I wrote that character specifically with him in mind.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I really hope he can pull it off because I've seen him act, but I haven't seen him do the sort of thing that teacher shortage requires him to do at the end of the film. And I think he is phenomenal. I think we all that when we were filming that take, I think we all just had like goosebumps at how good he was. So I think it was great casting. That was a lot of fun. Teacher shortage, a lot of fun. I still watch I still watch teacher shortage every once in a while just because I'll watch Mrs. Claus, during Christmas and stuff, and it just not from a oh look what I, but it just brings back memories. Like when I
Yeah.
watch these films, I have so many fond memories, and working with the cast on Teacher Shortage was great because, again, one of the things that makes Teacher Shortage unique is the victims in Teacher Shortage aren't teenagers. It's actually the teachers that are being killed off. So you got a wide variety of age ranges, all on set. It was a lot of fun. We stayed at the house that the film was being shot in. We just had a lot of fun, and that was, you know, watching my films. I think you'll definitely see that's probably my biggest film in terms of scale. There's so many locations. There's schools. There's bars. There's different houses. So that's really I really tried to be like, I need to I want to grow as a filmmaker and I want to show people that I am growing, and that my films are getting better or at least, you know, looking better, stories are better, whatever you may say. But my goal with each of my films is always to grow as a filmmaker and show growth, because I am very much of the mindset of quality over quantity,
Right.
because per, and I, I'm not bad-mouthing anybody that films a film in 3 days and puts it out, you know, and can do 50 films a year. Good for you. I guess from my perspective, I guess I value my name a little bit more than that. And if my name's going to be attached to something, I want it to be quality.
Yeah,
You know,
I
I'm
know
not,
exactly what you mean.
and again, I'm not bashing anybody because
Yeah.
if you're making films, more power to you. More because you're doing more than 98% of people are. There's so many people that say, "Oh, I want to make a movie," and never do. So if you're doing it, awesome, awesome. Keep it up. Keep it up. I'm never going to tell you to stop. I'm just saying, for me, I want to create something that I look at and I'm like, hey, I'm proud of this. I know how much work we put into this. I know how many takes I allowed my actors to do. I know how many angles we did. I know how many lens changes we did for a specific shot. It wasn't just the camera sitting, still for an entire dialogue and you give your actors one take. No, I want my films to at least have a quality to them.
All of your movies look like movies, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean we try. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say the one that probably is a little rough around the edges is Party Night. And I think that has a lot to do with me not really
Yeah.
knowing what I was doing necessarily. There's one shot in Party Night I fucking absolutely hate. If I could go back in any of my films and redo it, it would be that one. And when you watch it, it's on Tubi. You can watch it. It might not, I don't know, you're in
Okay.
Canada. It should be on Tubi.
I got a
But there's a
VPN. I can pretend I'm
Oh yeah,
American.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that should be on. It's on Tubi. I was just
Yeah.
yeah, I just saw it the
Okay.
other day. There's a walking scene. We were trying to recreate the walking scene from Halloween, the three girls
Yeah.
walking down the street
Okay.
with our three leads. And unfortunately, we did not use a stabilizer, so the scene is really shaky and it looks real, like just unprofessional. But we were filming like kind of guerrilla style. We just
Yeah.
like pulled over. Hey, this street looks like a Midwest street. Let's get out and start filming here. So, we didn't want to set up, a whole shebang, but we learned our lesson. And like one of the things is like me and Derek both said, my cinematographer for my first three films, we're like, if we ever have a walking scene again, we are going to nail that motherfucker, and it's going to look absolutely gorgeous. And we did it in Teacher Shortage with Brink Stevens walking out of the school. There you go.
There you go. Which brings us to your next film, which, big change up from the large scale of teacher shortage, a very small scale, a very shrunken down scale for your movie Hollow Lake. So, Hollow Lake. It's making the festival rounds right now, as you mentioned. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the world premiere of it at the Toronto Indie Film Fest, Horror Film Fest, and I watched it sitting right next to you, and that was an experience that I loved quite a bit. And I can tell you right now that the crowd loved the movie too. There was a really good response. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Hollow Lake?
Yeah, I just go back to that. I was so nervous because the crowd just didn't seem like to be a crowd to me that would be a crowd that was necessarily the one that would be receptive to Hollow Lake, because the film that played, the two films that played before it were just, these shorts, and it was a bunch of people that were from a lot of basically a lot of straight guys is what I'm getting at. But
Mhm.
they absolutely loved it. It was great. Like, they reacted, they laughed, they gasped. So that experience is always going to be very dear to me. Hollow Lake is, yes, going back to the basics. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I just budget wise, things like that. I just want to keep it simple. So Hollow Lake does go back to kind of the basics of a small cast. There's maybe five main characters in the film, mainly one location. Although we actually have, if you really watch the film, there's a lot of locations. Don't let it fool you. It
Mhm.
just seems like the lake house is the main location, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the film that is actually different locations and stuff. But Hollow Lake is just, it's a queer, bold queer slasher film. If you didn't know, I'm also I'm a queer filmmaker, okay? And so I finally kind of got the I don't want to say the courage, but just the really strong desire to make just a bold, in your face queer film. My films got progressively gayer as they went on, if anybody pays attention. Party Night, nah, there was no gay characters in Party Night. Maybe some eye candy if the actors in it are all attractive, and but no gay characters, nothing really gay. in Party Night. Mrs. Claus, I brought in a gay character in the character of Tyler, Jace Greenwood, who did a phenomenal job. And so I had him in there, and then teacher shortage. And I wish more people would recognize teacher shortage as a queer slasher because it is. There is a very strong queer storyline that runs through teacher shortage and culminates in the ending revelation. And I always have to remind people during Pride, hey, I know you're watching, Hellbent, but teacher shortage is all, and I love Hellbent. I'm not
Yeah.
shit. Hellbent is one of my, it's, I think, still think it's the
Yeah.
grandfather of gay slashers. But I'm gonna say there's teacher shortage. You might get a kick out of it. It's gay. But that wasn't really the point of teacher shortage. The point of teacher shortage was more about the state of our education system. But I
Yeah.
wanted to throw some gay characters in there. Hollow Lake went full gay, and so it's basically about a newly or a couple, Max and Baker, who are in a relationship. They got married. They live together. They're having a really rough time because Baker works all the time, and Max feels like he's not getting the attention that he needs from Baker. Baker is and very like aggravated towards Max just because Max is always picking at him for this and that. One of the things that Baker wants to do is have a three-way because he thinks that their sex life has gotten bland. Max doesn't want to do it. Um, because certain situations arise, they Max agrees to do it just to satisfy Baker. So they go to their lake house, and they're actually going to, you know, go through with it. And just so happens that the situation that allows them to go through with this is not what neither one of them. Well, we'll say that. Not what neither one of them expected. Okay, I don't want to spoil. But and then it just leads to some very drastic and bloody consequences. They also are joined later by their or by Max's friends, Justin and Alex. Roger Connors plays Justin, and Brandon Paris Sanchez plays Alex, who you might know from Death Drop Gorgeous, Saint Drogo, and they're working on Queen of the Rats. He's also an author who writes some really great books. I was so thrilled when he agreed to do the project.
And Roger steals the show. Like I said, I told you that before. I told him that before. He definitely does steal the show. Um, what were the influences of this project? I can kind
Mm.
of trace back the influences of your other projects, but not really this one. This one's kind of different.
Yeah, when I started it, I guess in my mind I was saying, you know what? Well, yes, this is a slasher film. At the heart, it is, I guess, a slasher film, but I wanted to do something a little bit more psychological because all my other films are very strictly slasher films through and through. This one is a slasher film, but there's also different layers going on. So when I was writing it, I was thinking, you know what, this is kind of my gay version of something like The Strangers.
Hmm.
You have a couple that are having some problems. They go to an isolated house. People show up, start to terrorize them, and we all know how that ends. So when I was writing teach Hollow Lake, I kind of had The Strangers in mind, and especially like how I wanted the film to look. Like when we
Yeah.
filmed it, I wanted it to look atmospheric like The Strangers is. But I would say that was my biggest kind of go-to when I was writing the script was The Strangers. It's a little bit different than The Strangers because like the killer isn't masked or anything like that well, he does wear a mask, but you kind of know who it is. The
Yeah.
first kill, it's revealed who the killer is right away.
Right. Now, the atmosphere is one of the biggest things that I loved about that movie. It takes place mostly at night underneath a gorgeous full moon, and the whole thing felt just ominous. Like it felt that moon, despite the fact that it was so beautiful, felt like it was just oppressive and hammering down on these people who are just trying to survive.
Yeah, we were lucky. That was not digital. That was the real moon
Hmm.
throughout the shoot, throughout the night shoots anyways. We shot in Hocking Hills, Ohio. Uh, Beautiful, just beautiful landscapes. It allowed us to get some really beautiful drone shots, things like that of the landscape. We were isolated, like there was really nobody around us. The house itself was gorgeous. like the exterior shots that you see, that is the real house.
Wow.
It was beautiful. And then like the barn scene, and the barn scene we filmed at an animal sanctuary right outside of Cleveland,
Okay.
Whispering Acres Animal Sanctuary. I got to give Janine Smiley a huge thank you for allowing us to film there. That's where the barn stuff and the whole final confrontation around the lake and the fire stuff takes place, because her animal sanctuary, she does some great work for rescuing abused farm animals. So the whole set was filmed with like just goats wandering around. Like every once in a while, it's like goat would just wander into the shot, or that whole opening scene where you see the like the farmhand guy feeding all
Yeah.
the goats. That was all the goats that she has rescued. So that was her property. She allowed us to film there. It was an amazing experience. And that was like 300 miles away from the house and that we actually
Wow.
filmed at. So movie magic, because it all looks connected, right? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But the atmosphere was really important to me, and I will tell you why. Um, Roger suggested that, well, I knew I wanted to work with Roger again. I knew it. Roger is a great actor. You know that. We know that. He is phenomenal in Teacher Shortage. He's phenomenal in Hollow Lake. He had people cracking up at Crimson as well. The last screening at the Crimson Horror Film Festival, people just
Mm.
loved his character. Um, he suggested when I was doing it that I maybe talk to his cinematographer for Meat, Mick Kuntz,
Yeah.
and maybe also get Zach Showalker to come on the project as well as like first AD to help me out and stuff like that. He's like they're efficient, they work well together. Um, because my DP, my original DP that I work with for my first three films, Derek Huey, while I love him, he lives in Peoria now. He has a wife, kids. He's kind of doing his own thing. He wants to do his own projects. He doesn't want to do anybody else's. So I was like, okay, Roger. But my big fear is that, these are two gay slasher films, and I don't want them to, be similar. And when I read the script for Meat and stuff, I was like, wait, these are yeah, they're two gay slashers, but they're completely
Yeah.
different. And when Roger started sending me, because Roger started filming Meat before we even started filming Hollow Lake. In fact, he was probably 70% done with Meat, and he would send me clips. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. This is not what I want to do. I love it for Meat. It's bright, colorful, fluorescent colors, neon lighting, very, 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 very gay, what you would expect a gay slasher to look like. Same thing with a movie like Hellbent, or think of any of the other gay themed slashers that really play up the campiness. They always use the pinks, the purple lightings. Death Drop Gorgeous does the same thing. I did not want that. I wanted it to be more rooted in reality and very muted atmospheric colors, dark colors, browns and greens are the prominent colors in Hollow Lake, on purpose. So tonally, visually, the films they could not be more different. And I think that is what really is just sort of really cool about these two films, is that they could
Yeah.
not be more different, even though they are two queer slashers. And it just kind of proves that queer slasher films don't have to be all the same, color by numbers.
Two queer slashers made mainly by, the not the exact same core group of people, but the core group of people is there. And they couldn't be more different than each other too. Yeah, it's really very impressive. I love Meat. I love Hollow Lake. I love them both for different reasons. I think Meat's a queer giallo film at its heart, and I think that Hollow Lake is a really gnarly, reality-rooted home invasion film. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was going for. Yeah, Meat, the killer in Meat, freaking iconic.
yeah.
I mean, the stud, the whole get up for the killer in Meat is fantastic, and he really created a memorable
Oh,
villain. When you put that costume up against some of the more famous ones, I'd say it sticks out. It's a really, really good design.
my wife's cousin watched the review, and they're very squeamish. But they told me that they can never watch the movie because they're too squeamish. But they want the stud's outfit for sure.
Who doesn't? We need to get Roger in that. He needs to wear that at one of the screenings.
He wore, I think I've seen him in like a variation of it.
Yeah, 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 probably.
The other thing that I really loved about Hollow Lake is the pacing. There's not a wasted moment in that movie. There's always something happening in Hollow Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm
I was
glad
worried I
you.
said meat there for a second. I meant Hollow Lake if I said meat.
No, I think you said Hollow Lake.
Okay,
I think
good.
I think I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you recognize that
Yeah.
because my biggest fear with Hollow Lake is some people might not dig the pacing of the film.
Hmm.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that everything that's in the film kind of needs to be there in terms of how everything plays out. I don't think there is a wasted scene in Hollow Lake. Um, but I think that, some people going in expecting a um, high amped slasher film
Yeah.
might be a little disappointed because the first kill in Hollow Lakes doesn't come until about 55 minutes in.
Yeah.
But I think that, everything that builds up to the first kill is super important. And I've always thought that it's better to be able to spend time with characters and get to know them. You don't have to like them necessarily, but if you know them, and know kind of where they're coming from in terms of their conflicts and their interactions with the other characters, it just makes it maybe a little bit more uh difficult to see them when they do meet their end.
Right.
But I also think like I've asked people, I was like, even at Crimson, I was like, what did you think of the pacing? And do you think like do you think the kind of the slow burn build up, because that's what it is. It is a slow burn. Do you think the slow burn build up is worth the payoff? And everyone that I asked at Crimson said absolutely, because I think the final 25 minutes of the film are just high octane, like nonstop action and just shit happening that
Yeah.
you don't expect to happen.
When
So
the chaos starts, it's not going to stop until the movie's over.
no, no. So I was like, I really hope that the payoff is worth how long it takes to get there. And
Yeah.
people do love people seem to really enjoy the characters, particularly like Roger's character. I think you're right. His is the character that most people are going to really uh maybe just gravitate towards.
Hmm.
Because he has that larger than life personality in the film, and he gets a whole dance sequence, and he wears a goddamn kimono through the whole film. What more do you want?
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Now, Roger and I did talk about Michael Kolbecker on in
Mm.
our interview lately, and he did the sound design on Meat, but he composed the soundtrack, the entire soundtrack for Hollow Lake.
He did the soundtrack for Hollow Lake, and he did the sound design for Hollow Lake, and
Yeah.
he went through and really cleaned up the audio as much as he could, manually without the use of anything like AI and things like that. Michael Kolbecker, rest in peace. That is he was so full of just energy and life, and he was so passionate about any project he stepped into. And there wasn't a day for about a year leading up to Hollow Lake being done that me and him didn't talk, either through text messages or voice messages back and forth. We did several Zoom meetings, and he was just a super passionate, so talented. He was a perfectionist, and he would take it upon himself to just do things for both of our films, like create little promo clips and things like that, particularly when they started getting into festivals. So what happened to Michael, and I always think about this, is it's so tragic. We right before Hollow Lake was supposed to or Meet were playing in Toronto about 2 weeks before, and Michael was so excited. He even talked to me about coming. He wanted to try to come, and me and him had just zoomed like the night before. I found out to talk about cutting a full trailer now, because we always talked about we need a full trailer. We have a little teaser, a minute 15-second teaser, but we need a full trailer. He wanted to cut it, and I was like, okay, so once it plays at its first festival, I'm not going to be so secretive about revealing things, because I'm sure it'll get out. But so yeah, that was our plan. We zoomed, and then I woke up the next morning and saw a message from on Instagram from a name I didn't recognize, and it was his sister, telling me that he passed away
Hmm.
unexpectedly, and he was young. I mean, 55, if
Yeah.
that, you know. Um, but I will say I think that his score for Hollow Lake is fantastic. It really is almost a character of its own. And he really, once he got into the vibe of kind of what I wanted with it, and I kind of pointed him into what I was looking for, he just went beyond and above what I was really visualizing in my mind. He really makes the score kind of like its own character, and you know, he did phenomenal. I'm just so sad that he isn't going to get the opportunity to continue and to score other people's films because when Toronto happened, there's like four people that wanted to reach out to him about scoring their films
Mhm.
that heard the score there. So rest in peace, Michael. He was a great guy, fabulous person to work with. His score, at least for Hollow Lake, will, I guess, maintain his memory. But if you watch, when you see Hollow Lake, I think you'll really agree that the score is one of the standout things about the film.
Yeah, 100%. It lends itself perfectly to the atmosphere of the visuals. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's sad, very sad.
yeah. How long did it take you to put together Hollow Lake?
Mm, it's it was almost we've it was almost 2 years. Like it's been 2 years. It's been yeah, we filmed it in what is June already? We filmed it in June of 2024. So yeah, it's been 2 years. It was a long process
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons, but you know, it it's a process, you know, and like again, some people are able to shoot a film in a day and have a trailer out the next day and have the full film out the day after. This took about 2 years, you know, making sure the editing, you know, the edit. Well, there's a lot of very ambitious scenes in Hollow Lake that we played around with that took a long time before we were like, okay, this is how we want it to go. There's a fire scene, and anytime you use a fire scene in an indie horror film, it could be a disaster. It could look like crap, and it looked like crap for a long time. And so that was something it took us maybe 3 months just to get that to where we wanted it. The score again, when Michael first came on, you know, he's brilliant, but when he first came on the project, you know, there was a lot of like he would score, you know, 5 minutes of it, and then we hop on Zoom and we would watch it together, and I would have to be like, oh, well, you know what, this scene I don't think needs this score. I want it to more focus on the dialogue. And then I pointed him to like, here's, you know, I was like, I kind of want like a deliverance vibe to the film is, you know, like,
Okay,
so
yeah.
he went through and you will hear banjos very prominent as one of the instruments in the score. And you know, what gay fucking slasher film is going to use a banjo? Hollow Lake, because the whole environment of Hollow Lake is very country.
Yeah,
It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's very country. It's, you know, there's a reason why like Santiago Baker's character, you know, has that cowboy hat on
yeah.
for the first half of the film.
The
You know,
Crocodile Dundee hat.
and everyone is, if you pay attention, you know, everyone's wearing like greens, browns,
Yeah,
you know, so I really kind of knew what I wanted with the aesthetic of the film and the color palette and the score as well. So once I will tell you, once Michael got it, he fucking got it and he knocked it out of the park.
yeah. Now I'm going to put a review. The review is probably going to be up before the interview or coming out in tandem, I'd say. I'm going to do a review for Hollow Lake. Let's talk a little bit about Dark Knight of the podcast. How did you guys get that started?
Oh, you know what? I I'd always wanted to do a podcast. Yeah, who doesn't? I guess
Yeah.
everyone's a podcaster these days, right? But no. So I wanted to. I had two ideas. I was like, well, I want to do. I'm a huge true crime fan.
Okay.
That's my other passion, like true crime. So I was like, I want to start a true crime podcast or a very specific true crime podcast, or you know, back in 2020, there were a handful of like horror review podcasts. And so I thought that'd be a lot of fun too to get on with somebody and just talk about a different horror movie each episode. And the first person I thought of was Roger. We had filmed Teacher Shortage. I had even like brought the idea up to him when we were filming Teacher Shortage, and he's like, yeah, that'd be cool. And we were filming Teacher Shortage like in 2019, 28, and then once Teacher Shortage started to kind of hit the festival circuits when COVID hit.
Hmm.
And of course, COVID shut everything down, which
Yeah.
really sucks because I really think Teacher Shortage probably could have done really well on the festival circuit. But most of the festivals that I'd submitted Teacher Shortage to canceled or just refunded entry fees. A couple of them went virtual, which it got into. But I think it could have really done well. But anyway, so we all got sent. We all were like stuck at home, and I was like, Roger, this is the perfect time. Let's do this. So we decided let's start a podcast together. And I don't think either one of us thought that we'd be doing it 5 years later, or that it would become such an important part of our lives and maybe our routines. But I think that when we started out, you can go back and listen to the first maybe 3 or 4 episodes, and it's pretty rough. The audio is really bad. We're not, maybe in our groove yet, and so they're a little rough. That's why kind of we went back, oh, maybe 90 episodes ago, and we redid our very first episode.
Okay.
Our very first episode was Hellbent.
Hmm.
Okay. And so if you go back and listen to our original episode, which, was like 35 minutes long. And if you know me and Roger now, you know that is like,
They're 2 hours.
we're 2 hours. So I think the new Hellbent episode that we did, couple like 100 episodes back is normal episode. But I think I personally I think it's fun. I think that we have a lot of fun doing it. We both have been exposed to some really great films from each other because what we basically I pick a film one episode, then he picks the one the next one.
Hmm.
And I just think that we have a really good vibe together, and I enjoy listening to our episodes. And I listen to some other horror review podcasts, and it always just, again, I don't want to sound like I'm full of myself, but I'm always like, I wonder why ours is not more well known, because me and him are, I think, a lot more entertaining than some of these ones that have a lot more listeners or followers, or
It's infuriating.
yeah. So yeah, because there's a couple
Mhm.
other queer podcasts that I'm like, okay, me and Roger are more entertaining than this. Why aren't we sponsored by, some, but we keep doing it because we love it, and we do have a
Yeah.
fan base. And it's surprising, because every once in a while we'll get, messages from random people that we don't know who they are. And our listenership, our listens are actually pretty good for an independent podcaster. We wouldn't still be doing it. But I love it. We just dropped a new episode yesterday, the Humanoids from the Deep,
Yep.
which I think is highly entertaining.
Yep.
But I mean, there's a lot to listen to, guys. So if you like podcasts, give us a chance, because we're almost at 200 episodes. And I literally will scroll through, and I was like, I don't remember us covering this film at all. Like that's the point we're at. So, but it's a lot of fun. I don't think either one of us have any intentions of stopping anytime soon. Life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
We sometimes have to take a couple weeks away from it, but we always come back, and our listenership kind of remains faithful. We have a pretty good rating on Apple Podcasts, which surprises me. But uh, yeah, I wish more people would listen to it, because I always tell Roger, God, if the right person heard this, we might be able to quit our jobs.
Do you do it video or do you do it mainly just audio?
We have I created a YouTube channel for it,
Yeah.
and we started putting the videos up on YouTube. It's nothing fancy. Don't expect like fancy backgrounds. It's my recording room with my treadmill in the background and Roger's bedroom. That's what you're seeing. But they're up there because I do think, yeah, YouTube is another platform that if just the right person sees it,
Yeah.
or they might be like, hey, these guys are pretty good. Maybe we want to get them on our platform or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
You never know. And I do think that we are pretty entertaining. And there's people that really, really, really say great things about us. When we'll run into people at, like, I ran into somebody at Crimson a couple
Oh,
weeks
really?
ago, and
Yeah.
the first thing they said wasn't even about my films. They were like, oh my God, I love your podcast. You guys are hilarious. Um, and same thing, we'll have people come up to us in Houston, at the Houston Horror Film Festival, and be like, "Oh my God, you guys' podcast is so great! I listen to every episode. I'm listening to it all over again, and that makes you feel good. That's what keeps you wanting to do it."
Definitely. Now, as you mentioned, you are a queer horror filmmaker
Hmm.
and also a queer enjoyer of horror films.
Yes.
So, how do you feel like queer representation has changed over the years? And how do you think things have gotten better, and how do you think things have gotten worse?
Oh, y- I think you do see way. Yeah, I think you do see more queer representation in horror films these days, which is great. There are a lot of mainstream horror films that are giving us queer horror characters. And one of the next film that me and Roger are covering, for example, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies,
Yep.
yeah, opens up very boldly with two females like making out, right?
Hmm.
Camera right in their mouths. So I do think you're getting filmmakers that are being a little bit more comfortable showing um, queers in, not being afraid to show that aspect of a queer relationship, right? Um, I've always said that, I never knew how many queer horror fans and queer horror filmmakers there are out there. There are a lot of them, guys. There are a lot of them. I could start naming them off right now. There's so many. And one of the things that always was puzzling to me is, okay, we have all these like queer indie horror filmmakers, but very few of them are actually producing queer horror films. And it always like I always was wondering why that is. Is it because they want to try to appease the mainstream and keep kind of uh, themselves safe from any sort of backlash, or what is it? And I'm very glad to see some of them start to embrace the queer horror film, like Roger. Yeah, Roger did Rebirth, his first film, and he basically made the lead, the barber character, a queer man in the film. So he's always been on that spectrum of doing that, and of course Meat's going full-fledged queer with it. And you see someone like Chris Moore. I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Moore, who
No.
who he's done Blessed Are the Children, Children of Sin, Triggered, and he has a new film that he's just finished called Until You're Alone, which is now fully gay. And Rogers in that.
Hmm.
And so it is really cool to see some of these gay filmmakers finally start to embrace and want to make a queer horror film. So I will say, I think what is good is we are seeing and we're going to see a lot more queer characters and just queer focused films.
Yes.
On the flip side of that, I mean, I think that just opens it up to more hate from homophobes and
Yeah.
people that don't want to see that. I mean, I will say that's been my biggest fear about Hollow Lake, because you've seen Hollow Lake. There's some pretty bold moments involving gay shit that
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I could just imagine being in the wrong with the wrong crowd when this scene comes on and
Yeah.
how they're going to react to it. So I think that's just a fear maybe we all have, but at some point you just got to let it go. I do think that it is really cool now that we're also seeing more realistic portrayals of queer relationships. I think for a long time, when you saw queer couples in films, they were mainly being written by straight people. So they didn't feel authentic. And I think there was like a fear of
Yeah.
certain filmmakers to show like flawed gay characters. Like it always baffles me that if you have like a film that has a gay killer, that there's a whole sector of gay people that shit on it and be like, oh, that's homophobic. And it's like, it's fine for a straight person to be a killer, but not a gay person to be a killer. So I think there was a moment in time where filmmakers did not want to show a gay character in any sort of negative light because they were afraid of the kind of the backlash from the gay community. So it is good to see a lot of just queer relationships being painted more
Yeah.
realistic and showing flaws. That was one of my goals with Hollow Lake, is to show like these are like gay relationships aren't all rainbows and unicorns. There's a lot
Yeah.
of they have the same problems any other relationship has.
It's not Big John and Little John from Halloween Ends.
Oh my God, no! Don't even start with those
Yeah.
those two. Okay, but yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a gay couple written by a straight guy.
Exactly.
That's
Played
what you
by
get.
straight actors.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think we're shying away from that, and you're going to see a lot more gay themed films, gay characters, because there are a lot of gay filmmakers out there that are just like embracing the gayness of their films, and yeah, so that pleases me quite a bit. I wish there were a few more that were jumping in the circle, a few more of these queer filmmakers that would jump in the circle and and decide to break away from just trying to make mainstream stuff and really
Yeah.
tell queer stories, because there's such a huge queer horror fan base out there.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say on the, but it was, you know what, it's real funny, and Miranda and I kind of had this conversation,
Yeah,
is that it does seem like though, that the queer the queer horror audiences are the ones that are way more critical of a queer horror film than a straight horror fan will be. It's just, it's really interesting how they will easily just totally shit on an indie gay horror film, and it's like puzzling to me. It's like I thought you guys, on one hand, you whine about not having any gay representation, but now you have this indie gay horror film made by an indie gay horror filmmaker who put blood, sweat, and tears in it, and you're gonna shit on it. It's kind of, I don't know.
it's
It's
like
just a
Star
weird,
Wars fans,
weird.
right?
Yeah, it's just a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know. You can't please everybody, but it does seem like the queer horror audience are the ones that are way more critical of indie queer horror film than straights.
Interesting.
It is
Yeah,
really interesting from my perspective.
yeah. So I know that you do film festivals. And you're specifically doing the film festival circuit with Hollow Lake. Um, do you also attend genre conventions or anything like that?
So I don't I actually run a film festival.
Right.
I run the film festival part of the Houston Horror Film Festival. Okay, so and it's a huge event. We've grown so freaking much over the last 5 years. It's phenomenal. If you look at, so I run the film festival, and then my festival partner Tony, he runs the convention part of it. So he gets all of the guests, and then we have Scott who handles all the vendors. And so we have grown, like we have 40 plus uh guests this year.
Wow.
We have a whole Friday the 13th Final Girl reunion. So basically, every Friday the 13th Final Girl that's still with us, um, because we know Laura Park Lincoln passed away not too long ago.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. Is going to be here for a Final Girl reunion. We have all these other guests. So that's where I get my convention fix from.
Yeah.
But I spend my entire weekend in the film festival room, and in fact, these last 2 days, and what I was doing right before I hopped on with you is I'm trying to watch the films that have been submitted to us and get it narrowed down so that I can get the schedule done, because the notification date is July 5th, and I realized, fuck, I'm going to be out of town with no internet access because I'm going to go visit my dad and he doesn't have internet. So I have to have this done before I go, which most of it done, because there's still going to be a few days where like the final eligibility date is there, and sometimes you get a really really great film drop the last minute that you're like, shit, okay, this is good, I got to fit it in. But I've been watching all the films. Right now we have over 300 films submitted to us,
Wow.
60 features, and whoo, I will tell you, trying to narrow 60 features down to about eight is
Troy,
it.
watching 60 features is oosh.
Well, luckily, and if I usually do a good job. Luckily, our submission or our eligibility window is about a year,
Yeah.
maybe
Oh,
10
okay.
months. So they're submitted to us over a course of like 10 months. So I try to watch them when they're submitted to us. A lot of times I don't get to watch them all, so I'll take a day to watch a bunch of them in chunks. I also have other judges that help me, but ultimately it is I mean, I am the one that uses the feedback from the judges and what I think that is going to play well with our audience. I'm the one that makes the decision. So ultimately, by July 1st, I have to cut right now 300 films down to probably about 65.
Yeah. When is the actual festival?
It is August 7th through the 9th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
yeah. Or
Is there a
8th.
website? If there is,
Oh yeah,
we can put the link in the description of the video too.
HoustonHorrorFilmFest.com.
Okay, perfect.
Or follow the Instagram as well. Tony runs the social media. He's a social media guru, and he's fabulous at that. But yeah, my I spend 95% of my time in the film room over the course of the weekend. I interact with the audience. I uh, conduct the Q&As with attending filmmakers. I host the award ceremony, all that stuff. So I'll get out and I'll get to see a lot of the guests. And we've had some great guests. Like last year we had Miro Sorvino. We've had Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
D Wallace. We have all of our guests are on the website that we have this year. So if you're in the Houston area, come check it out. Watch some of the films. I used to attend horror conventions, but like now being part of one, I just don't feel the need to.
Yeah.
I really don't. The only way I would ever attend one is like, oh, Hollow Lake's gonna play at Days of the Dead or Horror Hound. If I submit it there, I might go to support the film, but I just I really don't find the need because I will tell you this, just it's if you look at the guests, it's all the same people that just
Yeah.
recirculate. It really is. It really
Yeah.
is. Like it's really just the same, maybe 150 celebrities that are willing to do conventions that are just like recirculated through the different ones. I'm like,
It's cool that they're making their money doing that, but yeah, I mean,
oh my God, yeah. I always say I miss my calling being like the first victim of a horror film back in 1980. I could be raking in the freaking bucks.
or just being an annoying character in a horror movie in 1980, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
All right, Troy. So I don't know if or if you're familiar with this, what happens next in one of my interviews, but
Uh-oh.
you're about to get hit with the lightning round.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay, so don't worry. I'm just going to throw some quick fire questions at you and answer the first thing that comes into your head. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. It'll be a lot of fun. I promise. It's not scary.
Okay. Okay. I got this.
Weapon of choice in the zombie apocalypse.
I would say an axe. I gotta axe those fuckers in the head.
Axe the fuckers in the head. No ammo
Yep.
required.
I don't.
Excellent.
If you know anything about me, listen to Dark Knight of the podcast.
Yeah.
I've expressed my feelings about guns and horror movies many a times. Roger can attest to that.
Adult beverage of choice.
Dirty martini,
Oh, okay. Dirty martini. Excellent.
very dirty.
Toilet paper roll. Business in the front or party in the back?
Oh, front, right? Yeah, front.
Yeah, hanging over the top. Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah,
There's only been one incorrect answer so far. I'm not
yeah.
saying who did it. Okay. Marvel, DC, or other?
I'm not a comic book guy.
No? Okay.
No, but
All right.
I'll pick one. I'll say Marvel.
Okay. Perfect. Favorite Universal monster?
Favorite Universal monster. Wow. I'm going to go with the Mummy.
You are the first person to ever answer the mummy.
Yeah, because you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not really a werewolf person. I'm not really a vampire person. The
Hmm.
Mummy would scare the shit out of me. Seeing that fucking thing coming out of the coffin and coming
Yeah.
after you,
Yeah.
that's terrifying.
Real slow like.
Yeah. It's just yeah, yeah. The Mummy for sure.
Ninjas, pirates, or cowboys?
Ooh, what are we doing with them? Just hanging out with them or
Oh, let's just say whatever you prefer.
ninjas, pirates, or cowboys?
Yeah,
Um, wow. Well, if I was hanging out, I think it'd be cool to maybe hang out on a pirate ship, chill with the pirates,
that's cool. Okay,
meet
pirates.
meet some talking parrots.
Yeah. Favorite video game of all time?
Ooh, oh, people are gonna come at me. I loved Super Mario Brothers 2, and I know that's controversial, but I loved
It's
Super Mario
not
Brothers 2.
controversial. I loved it too. We
Yes, that
spent
was
an
my
entire
favorite.
summer playing that when I was
Oh
a
my
kid.
God. I love it was difficult to beat. But
Hmm.
yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2. I loved the like digging the turnips and throwing them at people. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun.
And the birdos, like the fighting
Oh,
those birdos. Yeah.
yes, climbing the chains. That
Yep.
was my favorite. Yeah.
All right. If you were a Pokemon, which Pokemon would you be?
Oh, wow. It's probably I would because I just think he's really cute and it's one that nobody t talks about a lot. And it's just adorable. And I had a little doll that I would squeeze and I would make the little toga toga sound. Togepi. Do you know Togepi?
Yeah, I know Togepi.
I love Togepi. He's just adorable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Troy Escamilla is a Togepi. There you
Yeah,
go.
right. I love Togepi.
Cats, dogs, or other?
Well, if I have to choose, I'd say dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah.
What's your
I mean,
favorite kind of dog?
ooh, I've always wanted a boxer, but I mean my last two dogs I loved to death. They were a Jack Russell Terrier and a Shiba
Hmm.
Inu. But I would say like a dog breed that I've always wanted to have was a boxer.
They're pretty cute.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know they're high energy and but
Favorite band or musical artist?
ooh, favorite band or musical artist. Well, I am God. That's a good question. Because my taste switches, I would say I have two, maybe three that I just think are phenomenal and have kind of impacted me throughout my life. One of them early in the 90s. I can say more than one, right? Or did I just have to pick
Yeah.
one?
No, you can say more than
I would
one.
say I was the one of the from early 90s, and everyone loved her when she came out, and I still listen to her a lot of her stuff is Mariah Carey. Very first CD I ever bought was Music Box. But then I also love Alanis Morissette. Probably my three of my favorite albums of all time are
Hmm.
Alanis Morissette albums. And then one artist that I think is just so phenomenal, a genius who doesn't get nearly the credit she deserves and has one of the best albums of all time, Homogenic, is Bjork.
Yeah.
So those would be my three. Like so different though, right? But
Yeah.
just they each influenced me in kind of different ways.
No, those are good answers. And I have one more for you.
Sure.
And it is, what is your favorite 80s horror movie that isn't Black Christmas? Well, Black Christmas is 70s, but
Oh my gosh. Okay. This one is really hard. And I've thought about this so much because so many 80s slasher films I love. Like
yeah.
I
I knew this one
almost
was going to
all
be a tough one.
almost all, but I have my answer because I thought about it. I love
Okay.
Sleepaway Camp. I love The Mutilator. I love Intruder, the grocery store slasher.
Yeah.
I any My Bloody Valentine. Come on, come on.
I know
But
a guy who was in My Bloody Valentine.
well, I worked with Elinodi from My Bloody Valentine. He probably has
Right.
the most memorable death scene, getting impaled on the
Yeah.
shower head. But I would say stylistically and just one that I think is just flawless.
Can I guess?
Um,
Can I guess?
yes, yeah.
Slaughter High.
No, I like
Oh,
Slaughter. I like Slaughter
okay.
High, but that's not it. There's so many 80 slashers that I love. The one that I would say my favorite is I've settled on is Stage Fright.
Oh, Stage Fright's so good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just think that it's the perfect slasher flick. The killer costume, that giant owl is creepy.
Yeah.
The death scenes are brutal. It's stylistically shot. The score is very memorable. The whole final chase scene with the final girl is fabulous. I also really love the final chase scene of the film Final Exam. That's one that I don't think
Yeah.
gets a lot of credit. I know people don't like that movie because it takes so long, but I love the final chase scene in Final Exam. But I would say Stage Fright I've settled on is this is the one I'm going to tell people is my favorite.
Okay. Stage Fright, the white feathers with the red blood is so
Oh yeah.
effective too, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't agree with you for Final Exam, but that's okay. Final Exam with the D D Ramone killer walking around with his D D Ramone haircut, just knifing people for no reason.
Sam, that's the thing is people don't like that. People
Yeah.
don't like if they're when they don't know what the motivation is. But I think the final chase scene in Final
Yeah.
Exam is really good. Through that goes through the whole campus. Like that
Right.
girl goes through, they're going through everything. So that's why I like it. I love a good chase scene. Final girl chase scene.
All right. Well, Troy, you survived the lightning round. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was fun. That was
See,
fun.
it's
Maybe
not so
maybe
bad. Everybody
no,
gets
you made me
scared.
you made me think. So that's good.
Yeah. Perfect. Troy, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm glad we finally were able to do this. I feel like we've been talking for months, talking about doing this for months. We even met in real life, and I still hadn't had you on the show, and I'm embarrassed for that.
Oh no.
But now we've done this, and I appreciate your time, you spending your time with me so much.
Oh, absolutely. It was a blast.
Do you have any other projects other than the film festival coming up that you want to talk about? What's the next movie?
Oh my gosh. Movies, if you're putting any sort of effort or budget into it, movies are draining, and I keep thinking I really want to do a fifth movie and then be done with it because
Hmm.
I think that it needs to be like I would just say if I do a fifth movie, it would be Mrs. Claus 2.
Oh, okay.
The script is done. It's been done. The script was done before the script for Hollow Lake was done, believe it or not. But the reason I decided to go with Hollow Lake is because the script for Mrs. Claus 2 is way more elaborate. It's going to take a lot of budget to do this. So I have to kind of think about how I'm going to go about doing that. Do I want to do another crowdfunding? Because it seems like the crowdfunding platforms have gone to shit recently,
Yeah.
especially Indiegogo. So I don't know. I don't know. People ask me all the time when Mrs. Claus 2 are happening, and anytime I post about it or mention it, the people get so super excited about it. So, I mean, I had a poster done for it and everything, and it's the script is done. But it's just budget and the fact that I'd have to recast the lead actor from the first one, which I always hate when they do that. So the thought of
Hmm.
having to do that is kind of a bummer, but because you want to find somebody that sort of could pass for that person. And what are the odds of that? So we'll
Yeah.
see. But if I was going to do another film, it would be Mrs. Claus 2. I've strongly thought about it. In fact, I dug the script out not too long ago to start going through it and seeing, what we could pull off and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. It's a fun script. So if I get to do it, I think people would really be happy and think that it was worth the wait.
Well, fingers crossed, because I hope you get to do it because I enjoyed Mrs. Claus a whole lot. So,
Yeah, it's definitely much bigger than Mrs. Claus. How they
yeah.
say sequels have to up the ante, and this does by quite a bit.
So, if a producer or some sort of filmmaker wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would say, I'm on Facebook. Just type my name, Troy Escamilla.
Mhm.
Instagram at Troy ESC. Those are probably the two platforms that I use the most or check the most. So those are probably the two easiest ways to contact me or at least get connected with me.
Should I have been saying Troy Escamilla the whole time? I thought it was Troy Escamilla.
It is. I say Troy Escamilla. You're
Okay.
100% right.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
so you. I will tell you a story quickly. I grew up in Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay, and there weren't a lot of Hispanic last names, so trying to get people when you would say your last name or people would see it, they would just say Escamilla. And trying to say no, it's Escamilla just became a lot. So in my mind, even though I know it's Escamilla, I will say Escamilla sometimes just because as a kid, that's what I told everybody,
Okay.
because it was just easier than trying to explain. Because kids in a small town in Iowa don't know that double L is Y, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so that's why. Sorry, you were right. You're 100% right. Me
Okay.
that
I
was
just
wrong.
wanted to make sure that I wasn't making a mistake this whole
Oh no,
time.
no, not at all, not at all.
All right, Troy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was
Yeah.
fun. This was fun.
Brings us
Anytime.
to the. Sorry, go ahead.
I said no, anytime. I'll definitely anytime you want to
Yeah, you
get me
should come
back on
back.
to
We
chat.
should we should do like some sort of horror movie talk. Now, like it's good to get the initial interview out of the way, right? For the folks at
Yeah.
home so that they can know who you are and we can next time you come on we can say, "Hey, go back to the original interview. If you want to know who this character is and about his career and all the movies he's made, go back to that interview." Today we're talking about 80s horror films and we're gonna discuss them. So yeah, you can come back anytime you want to talk about whatever you want. It's
Oh,
lots of
oh,
fun.
I definitely will. I definitely will.